Hey guys, thanks for joining us today for another episode of Maxing You. Today we're speaking with Jaime Otis, who was on The Bachelor as well as the first season of Married at First Sight. And Jaime has some awesome insight into how to keep a marriage going after tragedy and loss, the things that she and her husband are doing during COVID to maintain the spark in their relationship. And we talk all things perseverance. So if you're a person who's going through a thing, listen to the podcast with Jaime to see what she's overcome. Great information. We'll jump into it. Hi guys, it's Coach T, and I am back with yet another episode of Maxing You. And I'm so thrilled today to have Jaime Otis with us, and can't wait to jump in with her. Hi, Jaime.
Hey, oh my goodness, I'm so excited to be here. Thank you so much for having me on.
No, thank you. So excited to get to chat with you and learn more about you and see what's going on. So we will jump right in. So as you probably know, we are all about wellness for all of our listeners. And so with my background as a matchmaker, I'm all about improving ourselves as we're improving our relationships and seeing how those things sort of come together. So, of course, you were on Married at First Sight. And so we want to sort of dig a little bit into that and see, like, what was your experience like, and talk about, like, some of the lessons that you learned about, following what your expectations were for your love life versus sort of what actually happens in your love life.
Yeah, so I don't know if everyone who's listening knows, but yeah, I was on a show called Married at First Sight. It's on Lifetime. My husband and I were married 6.5 years ago. So, I feel like we're like the dinosaurs of of like the show because we're from season one. But it worked out for us. I think that the biggest reason why it did work out was because I didn't know how to date. I really, really needed help. I could have really used a Coach T back in my day because I just was awkward dating and I just didn't know how to be, I don't know, like comfortable in my own skin in order to be my true self around those who I was dating. So when Married at First Sight came around, they said essentially they would have like 4 Coach T's and they would like analyze everybody in the tri-state area. And if they found somebody who was really good, like who seemed to, I don't know, be your quote unquote perfect match, like on paper, then they would put you together and you'd get a legal marriage. And then they would help kind of guide you through the marriage. Although at first it was just dating. And so that's kind of how they got you. Cause I was like, I can date anybody. I mean, sure. But then at the very end, they said, oh, it's actually marriage and you're going to marry this person, sight unseen. And you're just going to trust your matchmakers essentially. And I honestly, it sounds crazy to do something like that, but I really trusted the science behind it. And I had like nothing to lose because I was pretty awful at dating. And so I gave it a shot.
Yeah. So prior to being on Married at First Sight, did you have like a laundry list of what you wanted in a partner, or were you kind of just winging it?
Well, so prior to being on Married at First Sight, so like, I guess like, to be very honest, I guess to take it back, this is kind of like my history is that I never really had a normal example of what a good relationship would look like because my mom was just my stepdad like beat the snot out of her, to be very honest. Like he just was very, very abusive to her. And that was the only relationship that I really had an example of, I guess. And so, and then my mom ended up, turning to drugs for just like as a coping mechanism because she was just beaten up so much. And she had 5 kids she was trying to take care of. She had no self-esteem. She ends up turning to drugs to like kind of cope. And I ended up gaining, because of that, she ends up like, of course, like losing the home. And I ended up gaining custody of my siblings when I was a freshman in college. So I never really dated much. So when it comes to like a laundry list of things that I wanted, I didn't even know what was good. I was like, I just want a man who doesn't beat me and who like
Yeah.
doesn't cheat on me and who helps me like pay the bills. Like that'd be awesome. So
Yeah.
I really was quite clueless. And I feel like beyond blessed to have had Married at First Sight and the experts because they really were like there's a expert on the show for anyone who's not familiar with it. Her name is Dr. Pepper Schwartz, and she's like a mama bear. Like she came into my apartment. This is like way back before I even had a match. And, she was just like scouting people out. And she was like, I don't know, she was just so real and honest. And it wasn't like full of drama. I had been on The Bachelor prior to Married at First Sight, and I really had no idea like what was, this whole TV world and dating and whatnot. And I felt like I kind of made a fool of myself. So I was like, if I'm going to do this again, then I'm going to be very honest and transparent that I don't even have a laundry list. Like, I don't even know. I essentially just want him to have a big family, and I want him to love and accept my family because we're a little bit dysfunctional. Obviously I have baggage, but like, I feel like I could be like great for someone, and, I want to be, I just don't know how to be.
Yeah. Absolutely. I understand. Well, thanks for first of all, thanks for sharing and the vulnerability to share and be honest with us.
I'm sorry, my daughter. Sorry.
Yeah. Welcome to the mom club. We know how that goes.
The babysitter's like, can she have a hug? And I'm like, no, like, I'm talking to someone on a podcast.
I'm alive. Yeah.
You hug her, please, for me.
No, you're
But
fine.
yeah, no, absolutely.
But we appreciate the vulnerability. We appreciate you being real. Love that.
Yeah, absolutely.
So when you first met your husband, did you feel like you knew that he was the one, or tell me about that?
Not so much. I don't know, Taylor, if you've seen it all, like when I first met my husband, but you did?
Yeah.
Okay. So I literally had a panic attack. And I didn't actually ever realize that it was legit a panic attack until like years later, because I just thought, I don't know. I never really kind of like put the dots together, but I literally couldn't breathe. I like needed, like, I went to a corner after we said I do. We like hugged our guests. So, to back it up, like we were complete strangers. And when I first saw him, obviously, as you know, like I said, I really trusted the experts and the matchmakers, but I honestly didn't like, I envisioned like some sort of butterflies on my wedding day. And, it was a very real wedding to me. My nieces were my flower girls. My sisters were my bridesmaids. I mean, like, it was very, very real to me. And so when the doors opened and I like see my husband at the end of the aisle, there was like no chemistry or butterflies, and I wasn't really attracted immediately. I was like, oh no, like what am I doing like this? And I almost like I felt like I was like, no, this isn't how it's supposed to go. Like I'm supposed to have like, this is supposed to be an amazing thing.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I was like, shoot, like this was the worst decision of my life. Like, why did I trust this? And it took me a moment to just breathe and to remember that like someone kind of vetted this man for me, and they vetted me for him. And they really believe that on paper, like we could be like, we're definitely great on paper. And if we gave each other a shot, we could be great together in real life. And so a producer, I mean, not everybody has a producer in their lives, but a producer was like, Jamie, remember what Dr. Pepper Schwartz said? Like she like really, really like thinks this guy could be great for you. Why don't you give it a shot? And I was like, oh yeah, right. So yeah, it definitely wasn't love at first sight. It definitely wasn't even like at first sight. It's not that I didn't like him. I am still kind of an all or nothing kind of girl. And so I was like, if I didn't have like that feeling of even like a little bit of chemistry, I was like, then it's just never going to work out. Like, I feel like that's very relatable for first dates, or for like blind dates even, or like, I'm sure for you, because you're the matchmaker. So when you put someone together and they're like, nope, not going to work out. And you're like, wait a minute, like there's all these reasons why it could work out.
Right.
So yeah, it's interesting. And that is kind of the one thing that I always try to share with people who are looking for love is, I don't know, like if the person on paper has like your laundry list of the things that you're looking for, but then you meet them and you're like, there's really not a spark. Maybe give that person a couple chances, because if I had just been like, nope, there was no spark, I'm never taking my husband, I wouldn't have like this amazing husband that I have with our 2 beautiful children. I mean, it's crazy to think that if I hadn't given this a shot, if I wasn't legally married to the guy, that I would have just been like, I would have never given him a second date. And that's really sad to think about.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Because I think so few relationships have that immediate spark. And usually that immediate spark is predicated on this idea of the physical chemistry, but there's so much more beyond it. And those people who are only looking for the very, immediate physical chemistry end up finding themselves sorely disappointed, in the end game. So I completely get it. So you get married to the guy, you stay married to the guy. And so tell me about sort of life in between then. I think you and I do share the fact that you have had, loss with pregnancy. And so tell me sort of about that and how you, like right now, have been able to sustain your relationship through sort of the trials and tribulations of just life as married people.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I didn't know you had a loss. I'm so sorry to hear that.
Thank you.
Yeah. So our first pregnancy, I mean, well, so, obviously we fall in love and we decided we want to start having, I wanted a baby like yesterday. Like I was 27 when we got married and I'm from a real small town in upstate New York. And so everyone like graduates high school. Sometimes they don't graduate and they just, like the goal for everyone in like in our culture, the way I grew up was like you pretty much graduate high school if you're lucky, and then you have a baby. And so, and in my
Right.
family, no one actually even graduated high school. We just have babies as like
Right.
that's like the goal, and that's kind of just what happens. So my goal was to graduate high school and to go to college, and but then I just wanted to be a mom. Like I wanted to be a mom so bad ever since I was little, just because I've always yearned for that mother daughter relationship that like honestly like my friends had. My one friend Elia in particular, her and her mom are so close, and I always wanted that with my mom. And, my mom, she just, God bless her. Like I think she definitely tries her best, but she just has gone through an awful lot herself. So
Yeah.
she just wasn't able to have that. So for me, I was like, I want a daughter and I want to create that and I'm going to. And so after Doug and I fall in love, I'm like, let's have a baby. Like, I want a baby now. Like I was just so ready. And of course he was like, no, like, let's like actually get to know each other first. I'm like, all right, that's probably a good idea. But
Oh,
our first pregnancy, we were really lucky. We got pregnant pretty quickly. And it was going pretty smoothly. I mean, I was sick, of course, but I took that as like a good sign, of course. And, you know, everything was going great. My bump wasn't big enough. Like I just wanted it to be bigger and bigger and bigger because I just couldn't wait to really like have that big bump and whatnot. And unfortunately, we got really bad news. I mean, we waited to share, of course, like most people do, I think, until after the first trimester. And then we went on the Today Show with Kathy Lee and Hoda and shared that we were pregnant. And it was like such a great moment to share it with,
yeah.
with them because they had been such big supporters of Married at First Sight when back like 6 years ago, a lot of people kind of we're not exactly sure about the show. They thought maybe it was a mockery of marriage, but Kathy Lee and Hoda were always very like loving and welcoming and just realized that we weren't just trying to make a mockery of marriage or like some dramatic
Right.
TV show. So it was really great to be able to share the news with them and for them to be able to share it with the world. And, unfortunately, very soon after that, I was 17 weeks pregnant when I delivered my son. And of course, that's far too early for him to be able, like, they wouldn't be able to like save his life or anything of that nature. So of course he
I'm so
passed
sorry to hear
and,
that.
and that was really, really tough. And it still is, it's interesting because if I had never lost a child, like a pregnancy or our child, um, I don't know that I would know how hard it really is, especially when you're quote unquote only so far along. Like I was only 17 weeks pregnant. Um, but I don't think it matters how far along you are. Like when you have a connection with this baby, whether it's like, a couple months or,
Right.
9 months, I mean, it's painful. It's really, really painful. Um, and so in any case, we definitely coped with that differently, my husband and I. And obviously we were still new together in the sense that like we'd only been married for about a year and a half when I had lost him. So we were still getting to know each other. His coping mechanism was more like to go to work and just stay busy. And mine was like, I can't even brush my teeth or my hair or get out of bed. And how are you even like getting how are you functioning, like what are you
Right.
doing? And so that was definitely a really, really big struggle for me to understand that just because he's going to work it doesn't mean he doesn't care about our son or me. It's just that he doesn't know he didn't even really know how to comfort me. Like he like it's interesting, like when you're hurting yourself it is hard to comfort others. And so for
Right.
me, it just took going to therapy. To be very honest, like I went to therapy, like for a very long time. I'm a huge fan of therapy because I don't know. First of all, our whole marriage is like founded by like a psychologist, and
Mm-hmm.
like therapy, because sometimes
Right.
you need someone from outside of the box to kind of help you see like what you're not able to see, not only for your spouse, but for yourself. Like there are a few things that I did that really could have jeopardized our relationship. And I was really fortunate that my husband was patient and loving,
Mm-hmm.
but then, and that was like in the beginning of our relationship, he had said a lie to me and I was like, nope, we're done. And really that's like quite a dramatic response. But um, then, after this loss, I could have easily been like, you're going back to work. You're barely like, I felt like I was so alone, like just so, I felt so alone and so isolated because I had no one to talk to I didn't know that so many people had suffered losses. No one really talks about it. And
Right.
so I just felt so alone, and my husband's gone at work and I'm like, this just isn't right. Like, I don't know. I just felt so, I obviously got very, very depressed, and that could have really been a moment in time that we would have separated. But, I think that that's like kind of the takeaway from this is that like, there are some times when I'm strong and he's weak, and vice versa. And there are definitely going to be times when one messes up more so than the other, or a perceived mess up more so than one more so than
Right.
the other. And it's so important to, just to remember the foundation of love and commitment that you have with your partner, because inevitably it doesn't matter who it is, you're gonna have this happen. And if you stick with the same person, it really does, like, it just makes the hurdle like so much more worth it. But also like the next hurdle, then like now I know how my husband copes. And
Right.
we've had also like two more losses, and now I know how he copes, he knows how I cope, and we're able to be there for each other. Whereas if I would have just left him, which, of course, if someone listening, maybe they have experienced that side of it, I get it. But if I would have just left him, maybe I wouldn't know for those other two losses, and I would have been with someone new, and it just would have been even more like heartbreaking, if you know what I mean. So um I guess I'm just a big
Yeah.
proponent for, well, to be very frank, I'm a big proponent for divorcing or breaking up when you're not happy, you've tried everything. But I'm also a huge fan of sticking it out, as long as like as long as you're not being like, abused or, cheated or whatever. But I'm a huge fan of sticking it out through the small things, because once you really get to know someone and you know that your partner is really also fighting just as hard as you are for your relationship, there is
Yeah.
nothing else that you could want in life, I feel like, than someone who's like on your team, trying so hard to be with you and to stay with you and to stay strong for you and changing with you and for you.
Right.
Um, and by that I don't mean like you should change for someone, but you have to adapt, you have to compromise in relationships. There is a little bit of molding and bending, and you have to be able to do that. So anyways, that's kind of, I guess, a long-winded answer to your question about like the struggles of married life and how to stick it out.
Yeah. I mean, it's, at least for me, like I always find that it's a total self growth game. So, like, before I'm usually pointing the finger, like in the beginning of my relationship, I was like always pointing the finger and wondering, like, well, you're not doing something. And then I just started realizing, well, I can only control me. And let's look at like what I can do. How can I grow here and show up as a better partner? And maybe that means I do elicit a different response from, the other partner, be that in terms of communication or whatever. So I'm completely agree with you. So tell me about like how you guys have been surviving during COVID, because I know lots of marriages have taken like some interesting turns there. I know for many it's created lots of growth, but we've all learned more lessons because we've probably been hanging out with our partner longer than we've known them.
Yeah. Yeah. So COVID has been so interesting for us because we had a baby, our sweet rainbow baby Hendrix. He is
Oh
now 5 months old, but we had him
yeah.
literally at the peak of COVID. I ended up having a home birth with him because I was terrified of COVID.
Oh
And
wow, Jamie.
that, yeah, that was wild. In my background, I'm a labor and delivery nurse. So for me, I was like, it is just wild. But COVID has been a bit, I mean, of course, it's like the worst. I mean, like, it's
Yeah.
terrible, but the silver lining of it is that we have been able to be home with each other. I've been able to
Mm-hmm.
be home with my newborn son. more than I was ever able to be home with our daughter when she was a newborn, just because I work, I fly to LA an awful lot for Married at First Sight, and just like other work and stuff. And so it's just been amazing to be able to be home. I mean, we shot the show, this show that I host called Married at First Sight Unfiltered. We literally shot it right in my living room. And it
Oh,
was just awesome to be able to nurse my baby and then go to my living room and, finish shooting the show. And I just felt like that was amazing. And then like my husband was able to be with the kids while I was working. And
yeah.
yeah, I don't, so the silver lining for us for COVID is that it really has brought us closer together. It's helped us like in the early stages of having a newborn, just to be able to be together and both be super hands-on. Like typically he'd be at work working, like, I mean, you would leave around 8 and not get home until 6 or 7. And so
Right.
it's been so awesome to have him home where I can be like, hey, it's your turn, like get over here. And his job has, like they're very understanding. So that's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's been, for us, COVID has been a bit of, there's been a silver lining of a blessing, amidst, I mean, it's the worst thing in the world. And I feel so bad for all the families who have lost someone or have been affected by it.
Yeah.
We're trying our absolute best to be like decent humans and wear our masks and wash our hands and socially
I know.
distance, for as long as they say, whether it's, politically, I know that some people say it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter either way. Like, I don't want to be the person to give it to someone. If, let's say, I mean, some people claim that it might be a hoax, and I'm like, okay, well, it doesn't matter. Like, first of all, I personally don't believe it's a hoax. Just like with the scientific background and just knowing that so many people have died, but also like,
Yes.
even if it is just a hoax, like, why wouldn't you just socially distance anyways? Like, you know what I
Just
mean?
in
Like,
case. Yeah.
just to be on the safe side, like, why wouldn't you just try to, help others anyways? That's kind of my take on it.
Yeah. Yeah. So, what are the practical tips that you utilize in your relationship to sort of keep the spark and to keep growing together? Because it's a totally different ballgame when you have kids. Maybe you guys haven't experienced it completely yet because you've just got the 5 month old and like COVID is still around. So you're still home a little bit. But like what's the game plan for the two of you to sort of continue to grow as partners while still being this amazing entrepreneur and mama bear? Oh, and then you happen to also be a wife.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie, the wife role has definitely taken the back burner, or
Mm-hmm.
what's that saying? It's put on, it's like been in the back, like it hasn't been the forefront of my mind. Like the first thing is, of course, I'm a mom always. And so,
Right.
um, I'm exclusively nursing our son, and he is a beast and he eats all the time. And I'm like exhausted because he still doesn't, like, he sleeps through the night, but I can just tell he's hungry. And he's almost 20 pounds and he's 5 months old. So he's just a
Oh,
big boy who requires an awful lot of nutrients. But
that's
so
good.
between that and then, of course, like, with COVID, not everyone, but a lot of people have lost their jobs. There hasn't been job security per se. And
Mm-hmm.
so I was instantly like, I have to do all the work I can do because I'm worried that if we lose our jobs, like, are we going to be able to provide for our family?
Yeah.
And so I wasn't saying no to any job, and I was accepting every job while I was super duper pregnant. Also, like, I was shooting that show in my living room and he was like a month old, not even. So it's kind of crazy, but I was
Yeah.
thankful that I had that opportunity because I know so many, I mean, my sister-in-law lost her job.
Mm.
So I was like, I'm not complaining about this for a second because I'm just thankful I have a job. And so now that things have settled down a little bit, and I realize we're not going to lose our job. Like, we have security in that. I
Mm-hmm.
am trying to focus more on being, my son's a little bit older. He is sleeping longer stretches.
Right.
I am trying to focus a little bit more on our relationship because, I definitely put our marriage on the back end. And I know that, like, I feel like I already can feel like people like pointing fingers at me for it. Like, I don't know why, but I feel like that was like necessary for me to stay sane. I can only give so much. And my
Yeah.
cup just was like never really full, like for myself, let alone for all the I don't know, the needs that were that needed to be filled. Like, for example, like obviously working and then being a mom and then being a wife and then being an entrepreneur and all the things. And so for
Yeah.
me, I just had to prioritize. And in the midst of a pandemic, it was first and foremost, I'm a mom and I'm taking care of my kids. And then secondly, it was because, I guess maybe because of my background of coming from like extreme poverty. I mean, I literally would have to like scrape pennies. I'm not even kidding you, like out of like the couch cushions to get a loaf of bread.
Yeah.
I I'm just always scared that we're gonna go like we're gonna I don't know, I'm just scared of not having enough to provide for my family, like even just food. So I definitely put like my job and my kids first and not my husband, and I definitely don't recommend that. But I feel like he like understood it and was kind of on the same page because it was a scary time when the pandemic just first like began wreaking havoc. But now, like I said, that we're like I'm 5 months postpartum and I've scheduled in. I mean, we literally put it on the calendar, date days.
Oh, that's
Feel
great.
fortunate that I'm able to have like a nanny, which I know a lot of people aren't, but have someone babysit your kids so that you can spend some time with your husband, because we were definitely we were just becoming almost like platonic and not like
Yeah.
romantic with each other, which is not healthy. So got to schedule that stuff in. I don't think there's any shame in scheduling it in.
Yeah, I think that's how it was for so many people. And I'd say like in the midst of the pandemic. So even if you did have a nanny or if you could have like a family friend or something watch the kids, nobody was like leaving their house.
Yeah, like you
So
couldn't. Yeah, exactly. Like no one was coming to my house to watch the kids so that we could have a date night in the midst of the pandemic.
This was weird.
so I remember like at some point just trying to do like little date nights on the porch once the kids have gone to sleep because, like that's, you do what you have to do. But I completely commend you for being, the resilient person that you are. So, of course, now we didn't chat about this before, but it lends me to the question of, what would you tell someone who's sort of going through a hard time and wants, and feels like, the hard time is never going to end and they are aspiring for all the things that you have now, right? The family, being an entrepreneur, all this stuff, but they're like in the thick of where you were before.
Yeah, I would say first and foremost to believe in yourself and to not give up on yourself, because if you have a goal, and even if you think it's a lofty goal, like believe in it. Put it. I with my whole being. I believe in putting it out into the universe. I put your dreams and your
Yeah.
desires out into the universe, and every single day wake up, and even if you do only one small thing towards that goal, consider that a huge win, especially in the midst of a pandemic, because let's be honest, it is a huge win. But I would say, like, don't give up on yourself and believe in yourself. If no one else believes in you, that's okay. You believe in you. And
Yeah.
I really believe that works. I mean, I don't think anybody, I know that my family, they kind of chalked me and my siblings up to like, like my mom was a drug addict and dated like and was with married like very abusive men who were like
Yeah.
also drug addicts and violent. And I really think that they thought that we were just going to become, drug addicts who are on welfare our whole life. And they just kind of like dismissed us. And I
Hmm.
don't think they meant harm by it per se. I don't know, but like definitely noticed it. And no one reached out to be like, hey, how can we help you? And my mom's like disappearing and I'm like 19 years old with a bunch
Hmm.
of, kids with me.
Yeah.
But so that being said, not for once did I pity myself. Not for once did I moan and groan that I had all these terrible things. I wish I could be more like my 19-year-old self back then, because I was the most optimistic, like positive person who just, I like didn't pity myself. I was like, nope, I'm going to work hard. We're going to get
Yeah.
through this. And it was looking back, like I was stronger then than I am now, because now I get something hard. I'm like, I whine and complain about it. So that being said, like if you're in the midst of it, don't pity yourself. Don't feel down about yourself. You got to stay strong. You got to believe in yourself. And if you think, no one believes in you or no one's helping you, that's okay. Like no one helped me and no one believed in me, and you got to believe in you, and you got to help you, and then you're going to get through it. And if you have anybody who does help you or believe in you, you already are like 2 steps ahead. So that's even better. But first you got to believe in you. I think that's what I would say.
No, I love that. Love it, love it, love it. I would say the same thing. That's really cool. I think that's a very inspiring story, because I think so many people like look at where we are and people are now, and they're like, oh, I'll never get there. And they don't understand the story behind it, like all the stuff that you get through, to get where you are. So that's awesome. And if you can count on yourself, then you're one step ahead. Did you have any mentors or people that you would say like, were extremely helpful in reaching, that you could reach out to and help you, like that changed the sort of the trajectory of how things were going for you?
Well, so honestly, what I had was like I would read a lot of biographies or autobiographies, and I went to church and I
Yeah.
like read the like I was just like just read very I read like Psalms a lot, like from the Bible. And I
Yeah.
just like I didn't really have a mentor per se. But I did enroll in nursing school because I was at a community college, and I remember going to the guidance counselor and I was like, what can I do from this school? Like I don't have like years of my life to be able to go get a job that pays more than minimum wage. Like I need something now. Like is there anything from this college like that will pay more than like minimum wage, like from like a
Yeah.
2 year degree? And she said, well, the nursing program would be the best program. But it's a super long wait list. You have to have a really great GPA. I don't think you'll get in, but you can give it a shot.
Oh,
And just because the wait list was so long, and I applied a little bit later than other people, but I wrote one heck of an essay and I got myself in there. And uh, yeah, I feel like because within the nursing program, there you get really close with your I guess co-students. And
mm-hmm.
there was two older women there who happened to know, like we were in clinical together, so they happened to start like I was very shy. I did not tell anybody about the fact that I lived in like in a trailer park and I had my siblings,
Yeah.
I had custody
Yeah.
of them, because I was so embarrassed. I was very mortified, which is absolutely ridiculous in hindsight. But of course, in the midst of the struggle, you're not proud. And
Sure.
so they discovered like kind of like how I was. And I'll never forget this one. She wrote me a check. I couldn't afford internet at home, and obviously it's kind of important to have internet at home so you can study at home and all that. And I remember she wrote me a check for $300, which would be like the equivalent for the internet for the rest of the semester. And
Yeah.
I literally cried. I didn't want to cash it. But like that was like one of the nicest things anybody has ever done for me. And so
Oh.
I didn't, unfortunately, I've always been someone who, especially when I was younger, when I was so embarrassed of the struggle, I would push people away. I would always keep them like at arm's length because I was scared to let anyone in. I was scared of getting hurt. I was scared of being judged. I was scared of rejection. But she just like forced her love on me. And obviously we still stay in touch to this day. But so I would say that like, that's something I would recommend as well. Like if you're in the midst of a struggle, don't keep people at an arm lengths away. Like, don't be scared of rejection, because, if someone rejects you, that's okay. Just know that, keep that person away from you anyways. You don't want them in your circle, but do accept people who are genuinely there for you to try to support you, because that makes a world of a difference.
Mm-hmm. It really does. No, that's amazing. That's amazing. And it's nice to sort of be on the other end now where you could potentially be the help to someone else,
Oh
like
my
that
gosh.
person
I love
who
it.
they're
Like
looking
that's,
for.
I mean, there's nothing better, right? Like,
Yeah.
so yeah, I mean, I'm pretty much an open book about every struggle I've ever had in life, because like I said, I read autobiographies about other people and their struggles and how they overcame them. And
Right.
that's what gave me like, I don't know, like the wherewithal to know that like I don't have to stay in the cycle of like, you know, teen pregnancy, domestic violence,
Yeah.
welfare, drugs, and all that. Like I can overcome it. I can break the cycle. I can do something else with my life. And it just took me seeing it in other people countless times by like reading it in their books, to realize like, I don't know, it gave me this like goal to like kind of be able to write my own book one day, and to be like, yeah, sure, I've gone through all this, but I've overcome it, and you can too. And so, yeah, I actually I have written a book about it.
I love it.
But yeah.
Yeah, where tell us the name of your book and where we can find it.
Yeah, so my book's called Wifey 101. It's everything I got wrong after finding Mr. Right, and it's on Amazon. I do have signed copies through my website at jameotis.com, but it's just a small self-published book. You know how hard it is to get a publisher for a book, and when no
Yeah.
one was biting at the bit, I was like, I'm not waiting. I'm gonna just self-publish this, and I did. Unfortunately, it came out literally at the same exact time that I lost our son Jonathan, and
Mm.
so I had like scheduled to be on two different TV shows and like umpteen radio shows, but of course I canceled it all. So
Mm.
I wasn't ever able to give it all the love that it deserves. But I kind of like okay with that. I guess like I just feel like everything happens for a reason, and I was going to write another book, but then I decided I might just make this like in-depth course instead. And so, as you know, Taylor,
Ooh.
because you're the queen
Yeah.
of the courses, I feel like that just might be a little bit more helpful than just a book. And so maybe one day I'll have another book up my sleeve. But for right now, I think I'm going to do like more courses because I feel like they really are way more helpful, way more interactive. So yeah, I'm so inspired by you because you are the course queen. You're so good at it, and your
Oh,
courses, yeah. So I
thank you.
think I'm going to go that route. But maybe one day I'll do another book.
Yeah, no, I love the book thing. So I obviously we talk, but I didn't know how alike we were. So I used to always read like strictly autobiographies or biographies. That used to be like my thing. And I loved it because I loved reading the lessons from other people's lives and being able to apply them. And there was always something, there was always like some nugget to take about how to get over something that you were going through. And you'd be just so shocked at these really cool people who you admired and looked up to see like they went through all of this stuff. So I think that's so important. Yeah, I love it. I love it. So tell me about your plans for 2021. Do you have any big plans? So let's say this pandemic ends, fingers crossed, and then we get out of here in 2021. What is up your sleeve? So maybe a course.
Yeah, well, 2021, I definitely want to release. So I'm actually like the largest I've ever been as far as like my body size and weight. I have more
Yeah.
cellulite and rolls than I've ever had in my life. And interestingly enough, I'm also the most confident I've ever been. I mean,
Mm,
it's amazing. It's such a freeing feeling to like look in the mirror, and I've got like some saggy boobs now because I breastfeed, and I've got cellulite for days, but it's been really freeing for me to just embrace it. And I don't mean that like I want, like, 'cause I don't think it's necessarily healthy to carry around extra weight and all of that, but I think that you're never going to get healthy if you hate on your body anyways. And so I think it's really important to love yourself as is, like as you're working towards becoming healthier. And if you're not even able to work towards it because you're too stressed out, hating yourself isn't going to work. I mean, looking in the mirror and, you know, calling yourself fat and ugly or a cow it's just not going to help you out at all. It's never going to help you get to where you want to be anyways. So you
yeah.
may as well love yourself as is. And so I'm really passionate about sharing that because I can't believe how many women say like that they like hide themselves from pictures with their kids, or they won't put a bathing suit on because they're scared of what people will say about them, or even shorts because cellulite in the back of their thighs. And I'm like, oh, it's like it's just so sad. And ultimately for me, what really pushed me in the to just put the suit on and enjoy life is because I don't ever want my daughter to think she can't wear a bathing suit at the beach. I don't care how
Yes.
skinny or how big she is, you know.
Yeah.
I just don't ever want those thoughts to go through her mind. They've been very like all consuming for me. So anyways, I'm going to create a course on that. And I'm also going to create a course later on just trying to conceive and pregnancy after loss. But yeah, I'm real excited about that for 2021. I'm also really excited because I might be going to Italy if this gets
Ooh,
better. So
nice.
Italy will be like a year away. It'll be next summer, but I've never been to Italy. So I'm really excited about that. And we have just bought this home in Florida, like a second home, and we're slowly furnishing it. So I'm excited about that. I feel like there's a lot of good things happening, like you just gotta keep going, even if there is a pandemic.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I think you are the perfect model of that during the pandemic and in life. We are so thrilled to have had you on this podcast and to share all your insight. I know there's lots that the listeners can learn from and nuggets that they can take. So thank you for joining us.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. This was so much fun.
Absolutely. I'll talk to you later.
All right. Sounds good. Bye, Taylor.
I hope you enjoyed the interview with Jaime and were able to take away some key insights. If you'd like more information about these topics, wellness, relationships, fitness, nutrition, just go ahead and follow us at maxing_you on IG and go to our website, maxingyou.com, where you can find lots of free content as well as courses to help you elevate your self-growth and relationship. If there's specific topics that are interesting to you right now, please comment below and I will bring a guest on to chat about them. I'm looking forward to seeing you next time. Bye.